Hello Varlets, welcome to episode 2 of the Cosplay Loadout series. I've learned a lot since the first episode and I look forward to continually improving this series as we go on. In this episode, we cosplay as the vet from the Darktide trailer. Starting with weapon selection, this is the trailer where we first get a look at the iconic Chainsword, so that will be our melee of choice for this loadout. For the ranged weapon, I narrowed it down to being the Kantrael MG 1A lasgun. You know this isn't the Kantrael 12 because of the barrel, and it's definitely not the Kantrael 4 because of the butt of the gun and the length of the barrel. That being said, the fire rate of the gun was higher than what it is in-game currently. So with that loadout sorted out, let's have a brief overview about what we are working with here, starting with the Chainsword. The Chainsword is not exactly a very strong weapon. While it can do everything, it isn't great at anything either. The only saving grace it has in your loadout is that its special attack is strong against mutants and maniac enemies, and is the only way you can effectively, and I use the word effectively very lightly, deal damage to Carapace armor. As for perks and blessings, as you can see, my Chainsword is untouched and I'm using it as it is. This is mostly because I don't have very good blessings yet, but if I had to choose, I'd take Savage Sweep for more cleave and Rampage for more damage while hitting more than 3 enemies, just so it's a little better at clearing groups of enemies in close combat. Does the Chainsword hit any breakpoints for perks to matter? Not really. You're probably good to take damage against unarmored and infested, since these armor types form the bulk of the horde and ambient enemies that you'll fight. In general, you should only be taking out your Chainsword because you have to. The most useful of reasons other than to defend yourself would be to lock a crusher in place for your team with a special attack if it's safe to do so. At least it provides some measure of CC as well. Moving on to the core of the build, the Kantrael MG 1A is a surprisingly decent pick. While it's not nearly as hard hitting as the 12, it hits hard enough to reach some important breakpoints, but falls short by a tiny bit to reach another useful one. As a Kantrael lasgun, it has the innate property of gaining more damage the further away you are, up to 25% damage if you are something like 15 meters away from your target. It has a mag size that allows for a decent string of kills before needing to reload and can easily take advantage of counterfire. This weapon will primarily focus on shooter management, and it does a decent job at elite and special killing as well. For perks and blessings, I have plus 8% elite for extra elite damage. Nice to have, but not exactly game-changing. The plus 25% damage against flak, however, is an absolute must if you want to comfortably reach the one-shot headshot against scab shooters and the scab melee man. The annoying thing about this is that it doesn't reach the one-shot headshot breakpoint for scab stalkers. Those are those bastards that can't get highlighted by volley fire. Even with a max range variant, which I have in my inventory, with 25% against flak, it still leaves them at 2 HP. 2 HP! Anyway, for my blessings, I have Headhunter and Infernus. This pair of blessings complement each other, but I wish my Infernus was tier 4 instead so you can reach more stacks of burn. However, if I got to pick both blessings, I would take Headhunter and Deadly Accurate instead. This combination of blessings plays into the weapon's innate strength of high crit and weak spot multipliers. Weapon overview out of the way, let's take a look at feats. In the first column, I choose at arm's length because it works passively and gels naturally with how you'd want to play your vet. That being said, you feel free to take whichever toughness regen perk you are comfortable with. For column 2, I have Demolition Stockpile. A free grenade every minute is just too good to pass up. Now, you might argue that having Sniper helps me reach better breakpoints, but the increase in damage is just simply not worth the consistency and utility. In the gameplay in the background, I think I threw probably over 20 grenades or even more over the course of the mission, and they all came in pretty clutch. For column 3, I have Bioptic Targeting. This is a support skill for your team and it gives them more information to work with. Remember, Darktide is in part a game about good decision making, so giving your team wall hacks for as long as you can maintain it can help with that, assuming that they are aware enough to use it. For column 4, I take Unwavering Focus. The damage reduction allows you to be mega aggressive against shooters with volley fire active. This feat allows you to do your job of shooter management significantly easier than if you didn't have it. Paired with at arm's length constantly regenerating your toughness as you fight, you are very hard to take down if you are playing strategically. For column 5, it's Frag Storm for me, no questions asked. The additional utility is just too hard to pass up. I'll go into more detail about this in my next video, but everything else here just doesn't compare to how strong Frag Storm is when used correctly. Finally, for column 6, it's Counterfire all the way since your job is shooter management. I don't think I need to explain any more than that. Now, before we close out, let's take a look at the cosmetics to get this look. For the helmet, you need to do all of the vet's heresy penances. For your top, you need to complete On Overwatch. and for the bottoms, you need to complete one in the chamber. As for the backpack, you need to get your hands on the Imperial Edition to get it. So, with everything in place, I'm going to score this cosplay loadout based on the effectiveness it has in quick play damnation. So, while the Kantrael MG A1 can hold its own and fulfill its job pretty well, this loadout is largely let down by the Chainsword and the weak melee combat potential against small groups of enemies, hordes, and crushers. Now that being said, the vet's skills and feats gives it a lot of utility and support capabilities for the team, not to mention the incredibly powerful Volifier. Overall, I give this cosplay loadout a score of 6.5 out of 10. Feel free to comment your thoughts on the loadout down below, and remember to suggest any cosplay loadout ideas you might have. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Violets.